All right. Hello, everyone. It's Larissa, and I am live. I'm so happy to be here today. I'm an author, speaker, and CEO of Larissa McCoo Coaching, and I help people unlock their magic and become what they're capable of being by really releasing where they're stuck and taking action on it. And today, we're talking about something really powerful. Today, I'm doing a Q&A session on limiting beliefs, and I've had some really terrific questions come in throughout the week. And then there's also some basic questions that I generally get asked all the time that I think will really lay a great foundation for limiting beliefs and what they are. So if you are interested in asking any questions, or if you have any questions about limiting beliefs, let me know in the chat, and I will be happy to answer them. So first and foremost, let's just talk about what a limiting belief is, okay? Because I think sometimes we might misconstrue what this is. So what exactly is a limiting belief? A limiting belief is an assumption about your reality that came from your perceptions, from life experiences, from other places. So limiting beliefs are thoughts that you have, things that you keep saying, right? You might identify a limiting belief by you constantly saying something repeatedly that doesn't necessarily serve you, that limits your potential. And these limiting beliefs, they come from your family, right? From your upbringing. So some of the conditioning that your parents may have instilled in you, or from education, right? From when you went to school. So what your teachers taught you, what some of your friends may have taught you, especially early in childhood, many limiting beliefs are given to us or are taught to us prior to the age of 7. Some of them happen afterwards, but we do have a lot of limiting beliefs that happen prior to the age of 7. And also from any other experiences in our lives. So that's essentially what limiting beliefs are and where they come from. So limiting beliefs are those assumptions about your reality, okay? Assumptions about your reality, your perception of the world that come from whatever life experiences there are, okay? And so what are some common limiting beliefs, right? What are some really common limiting beliefs? I think one of the biggest ones that I encounter is I'm not good enough. Why do bad things always happen to me? Right? Why do bad things always happen to me? Why can't I keep a good relationship? Like, why can I never find that ideal partner? Why do I always look for the wrong people? Why do I always attract the wrong people into my life? Why are all my relationships so painful? Or maybe in a business setting, why am I always getting passed up for a promotion? Why can I never get that promotion? Or I'd never be a good leader, or I'd never be a good entrepreneur. You know, I can be an employee, but I could never go into business for myself because I don't have the skills, I don't have the talent, I don't have the time, I don't have the money. These are all limiting beliefs. I could never start my own business, right? So these are all common things that we say to ourselves. And even going at a deeper level, these are things you might hear in your world. But when you go one step deeper, it might be things like, I'm unworthy, I'm unlovable, right? I'm not good enough. These are some of the common limiting beliefs or limiting decisions that we actually have at our core. And when you look at it, there's a handful. There's about 4 to 5 things that when you look at all the limiting beliefs that you have, one of them is going to be your major big limiting belief. When you really get down to it, it's like when you pull that dandelion out of the ground, right? If you were going to pull a dandelion root out of the ground, you've got to dig right down to the bottom of the root. And when you keep digging, exploring, that is when you find what you're looking for. Okay. So that's just a little bit about what some common limiting beliefs are. So one great question that we got is, where is it? Let me just find it. It was on my screen and I moved it. I bumped it over. Okay. So I had a rough childhood. My parents never had any money, and I never feel like I'll ever be able to be wealthy. What can I do about this? Okay. So I think we all have a story, right? You have a rough childhood, you have a rough past. Maybe you don't have good examples set for you, and you don't believe you're going to be wealthy, or you don't believe you're going to get an opportunity. So what can you do about this? So I think first and foremost, whenever there's looking at your circumstances and looking at what you want. And often when we're looking at our limiting beliefs, we are focused on our current circumstance. And some of these beliefs that we adopted a long, long time ago, we just take them for granted. We just accept them as our reality. And we don't actually step back to think about what we want. We don't even step back to think about, is this a choice that I've consciously made, or is this just something that happens to fall into my life, right? So for many of us, if you have beliefs that happen from childhood, one of the very first things that you want to do is you actually want to step back and start assessing, right? Ask yourself, is this your belief, or is this somebody else's? Is this your belief, or is this somebody else's? And if it's somebody else's belief, are you willing to let it go? Because you may be able to very quickly realize that it's somebody else's belief and you don't need to hold on to it anymore, right? That's a very simple way to go about doing it. And in other cases, in many cases, if it is a real limiting belief that's been with us and you can't just simply let it go, then you're going to have to do a little bit more work. But what you want to do is really look at what your current reality is and what you would like it to be. And if you can start living your life as though you're in your current reality, all of these things that were once limitations will no longer start holding you back. Sometimes we focus so much on our current reality, right? I'll never be wealthy. Well, what if you were wealthy? What if you were wealthy? What would be different? How would your life be different? How would your thinking be different? How would your beliefs be different? How would your actions and your feelings be different? How would you show up differently in your life if you were wealthy? And we often don't take the time to think about that. So when you're looking at limiting beliefs, you want to really, really look at, what is my reality and what do I actually want my reality to be? If I was living my future reality, what would be different? And start taking action on it. And that is probably one of the most simple ways that you can actually start moving in that direction. Okay, simplest ways to start moving in that direction. Stop focusing on your current circumstances. Take that story that you had as a child and let it go. Just take that story and literally rewrite your story. You don't have to keep replaying the same story over and over and over and over again for decades. And that's often what we tend to do. Okay, so you don't have to keep replaying that story in your head. Okay, next question. Where did it go? Okay. Let me just look this up somewhere else. I had a really great question and I cannot find it on my paper today. So, we are talking about limiting beliefs today. So if you had any questions about limiting beliefs, or if you do have any questions, then definitely let me know what they are, and I would be happy and delighted to answer them. Beautiful. Okay, here we go. It's in my direct messages. So, how can we avoid the most common limiting belief, fear of failure? Limiting beliefs can have a number of negative effects on you. So the question is, how can we avoid the most common limiting belief, fear of failure? Limiting beliefs can have a number of negative effects on you. And so there's two parts to this question, or to this statement, that I want to really look at and really address. So limiting beliefs can absolutely have a lot of negative effects on you, right? When you really look at what a limiting belief is. A limiting belief is something that you have. It's a story that you're playing inside your head. And when you look at the negative effects, they could be something as simple as you sabotaging yourself and you not getting to where you want to be in life. It could be you not having the opportunities, whether they're work related, whether they're relationships, whether they're financially related. Those kinds of opportunities can often be prevented in your life if you have limiting beliefs. Now, when you take it even a step further, everything that starts in your mind and in your spiritual world, when you focus on it enough, like fear, like when you get to the really, really big ones and you keep manifesting that and keep playing those stories inside your head, they can ultimately manifest into even physical conditions like health issues. Right? Most health issues actually have a spiritual cause, or they have a deeper cause that starts way up the chain. It's not just a physical manifestation. So everything that's manifesting in our physical world ultimately does start in the mind. So it's so, so, so important in order to be able to really step back and say, okay, is this a limiting belief? Because do I want it to affect me? Do I want it to have a negative impact in life? And sometimes we just don't know the difference. And when you realize that it can have massive negative emotions and massive negative impact, you want to nip it in the bud. So when you're really looking at these limiting beliefs that you may have in your life, they can have some really, really, truly negative impact on you. So this is not where we want to be. This is not what we want. And so you want to get rid of it, right? You don't want to have those negative effects. So how can you avoid the most common limiting belief, fear of failure? Okay, so I wouldn't say this is the most common one, but I would definitely say this is a very common one, fear of failure. And I think fear of failure, I don't know if it's so much a negative belief as it is a belief, but it's a belief that we're running away from something, right? And often fear of failure is disguised as something else, right? Maybe we're actually afraid of success. Maybe we're afraid of rejection. And it's not just failure in and of itself. Failure of what? And so how can you avoid this common fear of failure? Well, the reality is you will probably fail at something in your life, right? You will probably fail. Failure is a part of life. And so you've got to recognize that and accept it. And maybe look at your definition of what failure is. Look at your definition of what failure is. Because if you assume you are afraid of failure, well, what is failure to you? So I think first and foremost, before you just assume that you have this limiting belief, what is failure to you? Are you actually failing, or are you just afraid of the potential of failure? Because when you look at the most successful people in the world, look at Babe Ruth. He struck out more times than most people will ever hit a ball. And he failed over and over and over again. And the most successful people have a history of failing, but because they choose to fail and they choose to keep persisting, they achieve their success. And so failure is a part of life, but are you going to focus on the failure, or are you going to focus on what you want? So when you're afraid of failure, you got to know what you want. You've got to know where you're going. You've got to know that end game and that destination, and really take a look at how many successes you are getting along the way, right? When you're afraid of failure, yeah, sure, you'll fail. What are you actually doing well? There's contrast. So recognize what you're also doing well. With every failure, there will come successes. And if you keep focusing on the failure, you're going to get more. When you start recognizing the successes, when you start recognizing the good things that are happening, you will have more start to happen in your life. Okay. So we're always going to have fears, and you got to accept that failure is a part of life. But are you going to focus on the failure as it happens and dwell on it? Or are you going to really take a look at the successes along the way? So take a look at it from that perspective. And I think when it comes to any limiting beliefs, there are a few really common things that you want to do. You want to identify the limiting belief. Step one, you want to identify the limiting belief. And often when things are in your head, they get very confusing. So you want to write it down, get it out of your head, get it onto paper. And so write down your negative story, write down your negative beliefs. And often in just writing it down on paper, write your whole story how it is. Go ahead, complain, put it all out there. But when you do that, you're going to actually be able to be objective. It's easier to look at something on paper and go, wow, that's silly. Am I really thinking that? That's not serving me. So you're going to have different thoughts. So write it out on paper. When you write it out on paper, it's out of your head, because in your head, it might be rattling around. It might be confusing you, but get it out of your head and onto paper. And then objectively assess what is on there. Objectively assess your behavior. And you can go through it step by step because it's written down, and really assess that behavior and start looking at new approaches that you can take, that you want to take, that you want to try. So you want to really write it down, write down your story, write down your whole story, and then go through it, pick it apart. And instead of saying, oh, it's so bad, it's like, okay, here's an opportunity, and here's something I can do about this one piece of it. Here's another opportunity. Here's something I can do. What is my behavior? How take responsibility? What am I doing to contribute to this? Sometimes you're actually physically saying something over and over again. Sometimes you're maybe you have you want to be healthier, but you keep eating chips every single night. And when you write it down, you're like, oh, I just can't. I could never eat healthy. I don't know how to cook. I just feel bad at the end of the night. I'm so tired. I just grab a bag of chips. Well, these are your opportunities for growth. You write all that down. And maybe instead of being tired at night and grabbing that bag of chips, you can choose to go for a walk. Go on Google. Google has lots of ideas. Go talk to a friend. People have lots of ideas if you can't come up with your own. And so you pick it apart. Oh, I'm tired at the end of the day. Well, instead of having a coffee, I'm going to have an extra glass or two of water and go for an afternoon walk or an afternoon workout. And then I'm going to have more energy at the end of my day. I am going to prepare healthy snacks. I'm going to Google and look up healthy snacks. And so instead of having chips at the end of the day, maybe I'll have something, maybe I'll have a healthier option. Maybe I'll make some sweet potatoes, right? I'll make some sweet potatoes, or I'll have maybe I'll have a healthier dinner that will carry me over till the end of the night so I'm not hungry, right? If you eat like pizza at the end of the day, that's not likely to carry you through to the end of the evening. So really look at the kinds of food you're eating, and then you can make better decisions on that. But that takes being proactive. That takes writing it down and realizing most of the limiting decisions you have are just bad habits, and you have control over them. Now, there are some limiting decisions that are true. They're truly really deep. And these are things that will keep coming up in different forms. And these are things that'll trickle into every area of your life. Right? These really big beliefs that you have. And these are the ones like, I'm unworthy, I'm not good enough, I'm a failure, right? Not fear of failure, but I am a failure, taking on that identity. If you can't shake that identity, then there are some other additional techniques that you can do. So timeline therapy is something I love. Timeline therapy is a technique where you can actually go back in your timeline and very quickly, within a few minutes, eliminate that limiting belief or limiting decision very, very quickly. You've got to get to the root cause. So there might be a little discussion that happens before that, but literally within an hour, maybe 2 hours, you will get your limiting decisions eliminated if they are things that have been historically happening in your life. NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, has some phenomenal techniques that help with limiting decisions. And typically we look at these things within a breakthrough session, right? We work with clients for a series of sessions, and we help them eliminate their most limiting decisions because they don't serve you. When you are looking at doing something on your own, maybe, like I said, write it down, journaling, right? What's your past? What do you want your future to be? Literally choose to let it go, energetically let it go. Auto-suggestion is another great thing to help with limiting decisions. So auto-suggestion is something Napoleon Hill talks about in his Think and Grow Rich book. So repeating something over and over again to condition and hypnotize your mind in order to change a belief system. So whatever you say, whatever you repeat, whatever you claim your reality to be is your reality. Your unconscious mind can't tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined. And so when you keep planting seeds in your mind over and over again, right? Often we will plant seeds in our mind, but these seeds are things that we don't consciously make a decision these are unconscious seeds. So when you plant a conscious seed in your mind, it is going to take form. It is going to turn into something beautiful, and you can actually start creating your reality instead of just accepting what it is and repeating it mindlessly. So auto-suggestion is fantastic, and really just taking action. Prove to yourself it's not like that. Look at your limiting belief and say, well, what if it wasn't like that? Let me try behaving as though it wasn't like that. Go for 30 days. Take your limiting belief and say, what if it were different? And go behave like that person for 30 days. Go behave like the person that doesn't have that belief for 30 days and come back and see how it is different. If you act different, you will get different results. And that is huge. Prove to yourself that you are not a failure. Prove to yourself that you can do it. Prove to yourself that you have it in you, because you really, really do. You know, there are many different ways that you could look at this. You can address these limiting beliefs on your own, or you can go to someone for help. And when you go to someone, you will likely get rid of things a lot faster. Some forms of counseling work. Some forms of counseling keep you in them for many, many years. So if you're going down the route of counseling, make sure you're looking for quick results. You don't want to be repeating your story for decades, right? You're looking to move on. We love repeating our stories, but that is not going to move you ahead. So when it boils down to it, limiting beliefs, they don't serve you. These are stories that you have and that you make up in your head. And they are stories from childhood. They're stories from your parents. They're stories from your friends. They're stories from all over the place. And they feel real at the time, but you can choose to rewrite your story. You can choose to create a new reality. You just have to make that decision, and you have to make that choice. So with that, that's it for today. We just had a couple questions, and I will be back again next week. We are talking about attitude. And on December 7th, I am so excited, because we are going to be, I have a self-image bootcamp that is starting back up again. Okay. And so self-image bootcamp is a program that I ran a couple months ago, and it is all about really unlocking your magic and unleashing a new you for 2021. And the new year, this has been a crazy year. 2020, it was literally the year of perfect vision. And I think for many of us, we've actually forgotten that. And I think even though there's been a lot of craziness that's happened this year has allowed so many people to really step back and look at what is most important, really step back and look at where they want to go and the impact they want to make. And so there's still a month and a half left of this year. You can make the rest of the year the best of this year. And if you take part in the Self-Image Bootcamp, you will literally set yourself up for success in 2021. You have magic within you. You can unlock that magic, and I cannot wait to be there alongside with you. So I will see you soon. Enjoy your weekend and have a great day. Bye-bye.